Welcome to the TrueIMS tutorial on barcodes. A question that we have received is, what is a recommended scanner to use with the program? Look at the description of the video for a recommendation on a scanner that we've tested with the program, but any handheld USB scanner will do.
Now, in order to print barcodes, you first have to let the system know which barcodes you'd like to print. One way to do this is to the inventory page, which is called All Inventory. You just select the items. There'll be a barcode button on the top right. You can use that one to add those items to your printing queue for barcodes. The other way, which we're going to be taking advantage of right here, is by adding consecutive barcodes. Now, there's two ways to do this. One is the ignore existing items. And this is essentially the same way that it's worked in the past, where you can say a start number and an end number of, let's say, 2100 in this case. If I were to add all these barcodes, it's going to add 2100 barcodes, starting at 1 all the way up to 2100. It'll ignore whether or not an item exists. This is usually more useful if you know you're going to be adding, let's say, a bunch of items and you already want to get some barcodes out there for those items, so you can just stick them on there as you're working through those items. The other way is to use the consideration for existing items option. Now it's going to let you know here that we want this to be within at least 1,000, so let's just put 200 right there. And what this does, it's going to only add barcodes for items within this range. So right now we only have items 1 and 2, I believe. So if we were to go ahead and add the barcodes, it's only going to add items or barcodes for items 1 and 2 because those are the only items that exist. Now, separately from that, we have the option to only include items that are available. What this does is if an item is at 0, it's not going to be adding that to the printing queue. If you did not want that, if you still want to go ahead and just add items or barcodes for items that are out of stock, we can just uncheck this option right here. Next, on the left-hand side, we have 4 different conditions we can choose for. Now we have the add 1, add all total quantity, and add all reserve options. Add 1 naturally is going to add just 1 barcode for that one item. Add all total quantity will add items or barcodes for that item depending on how many items you actually have in stock. If you were to have 5 in quantity and let's say 2 in reserve, it'll combine those and put them all into your barcode queue. Add all quantity is only going to consider the quantity of that item, and add all reserve is going to be using the reserve quantity of that item. Now, this may be confusing at the moment, but quantity is what used to be called e-commerce stock, and reserve quantities are what used to be called on-hand stock. Once the barcodes have been added to your printing queue, they're going to be listed in the queue, and this is something you were not able to do before either. You can actually see the items in the queue. If you don't want one of the barcodes printed, you can just pick it, remove it, and it will no longer be inside of your printing queue. When you're ready to print, we go print, and we have 2 separate options. You have the PDF option, which will print to regular desktop printers or the Rollo printers. And if you have a Dymo printer, we can use the Dymo print option on the right. Just load up, it'll give you all of your label information, and it's going to show you a quick sample of what that label would look like as well. If we pick different labels, it'll show different samples. On the left-hand side, you can pick the specific Dymo printer that you have. And if you have, I forgot what it was called, but if you have the Dymo printer that has 2 separate rolls, and you were to select it, it's going to give you the option to pick which roll you'd like to use, either the left roll or the right roll. If you were to now go back to the PDF, you load this up, it's going to show you a sample of what your file would look like as well. Let's say we were to pick the Avery 5195. It's going to show you exactly what those barcodes would look like. When you're ready, click the print button. They'll take you to the print dialog. You'll be able to print your barcodes from there.
One thing to note is if you go back to the Dymo printer option, it shows you whether or not your label printer is properly connected. So this is a great way to know whether it's ready to print if it says connected. If it's not properly connected, you'll see the message that's on the screen now. And this concludes the video on barcodes. Thank you.